just do 1% better each time, if we could just take the 1%, like we don't have to win, like that's like the secondary part of this, but if we can just primarily focus on one step, 1%. And how you did this, like have one conversation, have one intentional conversation with a non-white, a black colleague, and open a space to have that perspective. That's 1% of that. And I love how you came up with that concept. Can you expand a little more on how you delicately kind of approach that concept and communicating that to your colleagues and maybe in some ways even your leadership
Yeah, well,
to
we
build
have
this framework?
it's interesting. We have all this research and all this wisdom about effective problem solving.
Yeah.
We've learned so much about how to approach problems, how to effectively team, how to solve problems. But a lot of that, for whatever reason, hasn't been applied to solving these huge societal problems like racism. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things we know about problem solving is like you have to uh, engage with a problem in a way that's sustainable in order to have lasting change, right? Or in order to see these solutions. We also know that micro actions have compound effects.
Mm-hmm.
And so we like orienting ourselves to action and having a bias to action and just starting create something that can snowball. But with these big problems, I think there's often this sense that what we're doing is not enough, right? Like so yeah, I can have a conversation, but that's not enough. Of course it's not enough, but we're not trying to solve racism in a day. And so what's likely to get the most people engaged in this problem? What's likely to keep people engaged in this problem? And I think quality action is informed by understanding, right? And so giving people understanding as action or helping or building or creating understanding as something that they can do, and then not minimizing that as not enough or insufficient. I think that's enough. Like there's this, people are burdened with guilt and obligation around racism too, and like we all, myself included, are well aware that whatever we're doing is insufficient, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing anyone's doing that we can't point to and say, yeah, but you could be doing more of this. That goes for everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
so to start to acknowledge our victories or acknowledge our starts is really important. And so the conversations I had with our leadership team were really around getting people engaged with the problem of racism, with the disease of racism, who hadn't previously been engaged with that problem. And looking at the barriers to engagement. One of those barriers to engagement was like, what I'm doing is either going to be wrong or it's going to be insufficient. Like, so let's acknowledge that off the bat. It probably is going to be wrong, and yeah, it's going to be insufficient to solve the problem of racism. However, here is a really powerful start. I know in my experience, being heard has been healing and has been transformative. And I know I have heard back from the people who have listened to me that hearing my story has been transformative. So why don't we start there? If there's a baseline level of trust between this individual and this individual, why don't we start with a human to human conversation where we kind of lay the ground rules and create a container that is safe and kind of psychologically uplifting rather than damaging for both of them. And for me, doing that and then kind of demonstrating how that could be done was a powerful form of the work, right? A powerful form of doing that work. And I wanted to um, not kind of pat people on the back for having a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted them to engage with the work. And if this level of engagement is one that they hadn't done prior, we have to acknowledge that, like, look, you've done something that you haven't done before. That is your form of change up until this point. Yeah, we'll expect that 1% to continue to multiply on itself, and once you have a better understanding, maybe you'll do more. But we have to start with at least acknowledging small victories and like having someone engage with the problem of racism or talk about racism in the workplace who's never has before. That's a victory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is. I have burned in my head this quote from one of the attorneys who I worked for when I was a young lawyer. I'm not a lawyer anymore. I haven't been a lawyer for a while, but I had my like my very first trial, and it was this little kind of insignificant in my head, this insignificant case, and the firm had sent out an email going, "Oh, congratulations to Toussaint Bailey. He won his first trial." And I was passing somebody, this older female lawyer in the hallway who congratulated me. And I think I said something like, "Yeah, but it was just it was like a little kind of tiny." And she stopped me in my tracks and like looked at me serious and goes, "We do not minimize our victories. We do not." And I was like, that has stuck with me for however over like decades, right? Over a decade since. And so that sticks with me here. Like, yes, we have a ton of work to do. Yes, there's a bunch of progress to be made, but like we cannot minimize our victories if we're
Mm-hmm.
expecting to really kind of get to where we need to go to.
Yeah. I think that's why I'm glad you mentioned that because I think that's why it becomes so fatiguing and overwhelming for these leaders because they think the project's too big. It's too much. I can't solve racism, so I'm out.
You got it.
You know,
Yeah.
I obviously I'm the problem. I'm a white hetero person. I'm out.